Welcome to today's KM World Roundtable webinar, brought to you by Verint, Capacity, and Keeeb. I'm Mary D. Ojala, Conference Program Director, Information Today, Inc. I will be the moderator for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled, Revitalizing Your KM Strategy for Digital Transformation. Before we get started, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the Submit button. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but if your question has not been selected during the show, you will receive an email response to it within a few days. Plus, all viewers will be entered to win a $100 Amazon gift card just for viewing today's webinar. And now to introduce our speakers for today, Heather Richards, VP Product Strategy for KM at Verint, David Karandish, Founder and CEO, Capacity, Tom Barfield, Chief Solutions Architect, Keeeb. And now let me pass the event to Heather Richards, VP Product Strategy for KM, Verint. Heather.
Thanks, Mary D. It's good to be here with everyone. Today I'm going to talk about revitalizing your KM strategy for digital transformation. And first, I want to say, well, why? Why knowledge management and digital transformation? Right now, the customer engagement market has changed a lot over the last 5 years. And leading this change has really been that proliferation of technology that you see there and the amount of data that's available, the combination of which has made the wave of AI and automation possible. If we look at changes in the workforce as well, these changes are reflected not just in workplaces, but also employees and their expectations. We have the gig economy, home workers, virtual contact centers. And looking at even the current situation now, mid-pandemic, many more of us are home working, with many contact and support centers now 100% virtual. And this was a growing trend, but the current situation has absolutely accelerated this, I think. And what I'm seeing is that digital transformation is being used to address a lot of these changes. So when we take a look at this backdrop and how it's actually impacting the decisions we're making within our own organizations when it comes to digital transformation. So here at Verint, we believe that knowledge management has a really important part to play. As the market and the world has changed around us, and so is the role of knowledge management. And I think what's key here is that knowledge management isn't just a tool to manage knowledge. And that may sound obvious, but I think it's really interesting the way that we're all persisting in calling this technology knowledge management when it's so much more than that. Knowledge provides insight. Insight leads to the creation of better knowledge and information. And actually done right, it actually delivers customer and operational insights, things that we're all looking to achieve. And knowledge actually ends up being foundational in many ways to both intelligent automation, but also digital transformation. So when we look at the journey to knowledge automation, as I like to call it, I'm actually talking about the differences between knowledge management and the difference, between simply managing your knowledge, utilizing tools that introduce automation into the creation, consumption, and sharing of knowledge as a way to accelerate digital transformation. So, why is automation or efficiency even important? And I think it's really key, particularly when you're looking at any sort of digital transformation. In order to drive it forward, you need a business case that's going to stack up and actually be, substantiated. And if you start linking knowledge management to efficiency gains within your organization, what you can actually do is start creating an ROI around knowledge management, far beyond sort of the basic KPIs like the sharing of information or one version of the truth that are sort of, the byproduct, as we all know, of knowledge management. It can be much more than that. So I like to look at what we call the next generation of knowledge management, which means that you have tools that understand what people are asking, what they mean, not what they're typing, anticipates what your employees or what your customers need next, and then it starts improving through continued use. And that anticipates bit is really important, because the more you can anticipate what people want to know, if you can start answering questions before they're asked, there's no faster way toward efficiency than that. And so for me, that's really a key component of any knowledge automation project. So when we look at accelerating digital transformation, I like to think one of the main ways that can be done is through collaboration. Once you have the tools you need to start automating the creation, consumption, and sharing of knowledge, it can be time to start thinking, how are we actually going to accelerate this? How do we revitalize our approach to knowledge management? Now, what I've seen, particularly now when so many of us are working from home, is that we've seen a lot of our customers talking about how pushing knowledge out to, say, remote workers through cloud-hosted knowledge management solutions is really assisting employees and agents. But more so, what we've seen is that the collaboration of people consuming knowledge with those creating it is just as important. Where we all used to be sitting together in teams, able to lean over and ask for assistance, etc. A lot of people now are looking for ways to increase their knowledge of subjects remotely. And in this example, agents are actually quickly providing real-time feedback on the content they're consuming within a knowledge application. The feedback speeds up the development of the knowledge base, but also allows for collaboration and crowdsourcing to start to occur in what normally would just be a one-way flow of information. So this actually enables that tacit tribal knowledge to start being captured as well, and then reutilized in other places, which can be quite powerful. Another way to start using knowledge management as a source of collaboration is actually using communities and knowledge management together. An idea I really like is this concept of information to knowledge. Information is out there, whether it's in our communities or elsewhere, that may not have made it yet into any curated source of knowledge, but it's really important that you have the tools that actually enable you to do that and start capturing those community insights. And insight and information can be gathered from outside any knowledge management system as well, but the key is to provide the tools that actually allow knowledge workers to identify what parts of community and crowdsourced knowledge is useful, and then actually turn that into curated knowledge. It's not just your own employees or community members that can help revitalize your KM, and it's really interesting to look to see how you can actually start collaborating with your customers when you're looking to assist in any sort of digital transformation. One of our customers, BMW, have used KM really as a cornerstone to digital transformation, and they're looking to use automation in a self-service capacity and also agent interactions. And they use the real-time analytics provided by our knowledge management solution to actually act in real time to questions their customers have. So here, for example, they're providing new content around COVID-19, as I was saying, but I think even more interesting, they're actually providing different answers to questions that were already there that have changed due to the circumstances. And this approach actually starts giving control and certainty to customers without placing a burden on them to call or email support center, which is really key. They've been able to drive digital adoption by their customers and actually decrease the effort required to provide great customer service, even in quite unpredictable situations. And if you are using AI algorithms, that mean from day one, the system starts understanding new questions and starts clustering other relevant information from the KB without BMW even having to use any sort of tagging or manual admin effort. And that's really key here as well. So if you take the ideas for knowledge collaboration one step further, once you have that knowledge lifecycle working that I've been describing, where you have people that are able to collaborate on knowledge and turn it into something that is within a curated knowledge base, once you start crowdsourcing relevant information, that then can be actually used in other applications and other interfaces. And a key for driving digital transformation is actually being able to use a single knowledge management platform to drive knowledge efficiencies across your entire organization, regardless of the audiences, channel, or even device. So the third thing that I want to talk about here is using knowledge management tools creatively and flexibly. So, once you're able to start harnessing relevant knowledge through collaboration, you can then start to look to see how to use knowledge management in new and interesting ways, kind of looking beyond those standard KM use cases, and really start asking, where can I start automating knowledge as part of any customer or employee journey? So here, for example, knowledge is being used in a contextual self-help use case. So actually relevant help is being pushed toward the end user on this customer's website as they're going through the process of filling out a form. Again, looking at the analytics, it helps identify process problems. You get insight from third-party platforms and actually able to start improving things like self-service adoption. This isn't knowledge as a destination. This is almost knowledge happening without the end user even realizing that it is. And that's really key, where you're actually getting contextual information based on what you're doing through a normal website journey. This second example here is really the use of knowledge to build decision and process trees that I see used quite a bit and very effectively within contact centers. You kind of think about what processes are used most or taking a long time to complete and actually adapt them. Using existing knowledge into workflows. Multiple pathways can exist to find this information, but many of our customers have actually been able to increase talk time, which is quite useful at this moment when a lot of customers that are ringing in may have specific concerns or specific vulnerabilities, but they're actually still been able to reduce average call handling time because of the operational efficiencies found through actually building workflows out of existing knowledge. Now, we have a case study here, and an example that I love to talk about in terms of using knowledge management creatively. It's here from Equinity, who are a leading specialist in technology, finance, and admin services in regulated markets. Due to the current situation, they were actually had 2 days to get all of their agents up and running at home. And they used Verint Knowledge Management to facilitate this and were able to up and cross-skill these agents at the same time, actually enabling to take calls on subjects that all of a sudden had very high demand that traditionally they weren't used to talking to customers about. And they found that after doing this, actually using KM to facilitate this at-home working, they had the confidence that the agents that they were training had the information they needed to support their customers. So when we look at what's happening, I guess, within the realms of digital transformation, something I hear a lot is things like these quotes. We already know so much about the call and the customer. Why should we bother to do any search at all? Or intelligent push knowledge is the future. This is where we want to go as an organization. And I think it's really important to take a look at how to automate knowledge to the point that it is zero click. For me, that they can't get more revitalized than that. It is to actually look at providing information to the right person at the right time without them even having to ask the question, using those contextual clues in some of the examples that we were looking at. Because if you're able to do that, you can start putting together that business case for your revitalized knowledge management strategy. Whether you're looking at increases in workforce productivity, online resolution of issues, decreasing support escalations, and at the same time, keeping customer satisfaction. And all those are absolutely key, utilizing those key things that I was talking about before, which are really, we're going through, make sure that you're able to provide real-time knowledge collaboration between employees, customers, community. You can do that by utilizing inbuilt analytics that allow for real-time adaptations and reactions to situations. Looking at AI capabilities that bring benefit from day one, that allow you to add information and have it instantly accessible without a lot of overhead in maintenance to those changes that you're going to have to be making to your knowledge base. And then lastly, really looking at those differences between managing your knowledge and automating your knowledge, making sure that you're always looking for ways along that path toward digital transformation to actually automate the creation, consumption, and sharing of knowledge to drive digital transformation forward. Thank you, and back to you, Mary Dee.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And now let us move to David Karandish founder and CEO, Capacity. David.
Hello. Thank you all for taking the time out. I know it's been crazy last few weeks with everything going on in the world. So hopefully this can be a both informative and entertaining session for you all. So let's just go ahead and dive in. So we're going to talk today about using artificial intelligence to streamline the workplace. I want to start out by first framing up the big problem that we see. And the big problem that we see is that there is a workplace expectation gap between how people think the workplace should operate and how it actually operates. Now, I've got 4 kids at home, 8, 6, 4, and 3, so I can remember other types of expectation gaps I've experienced. Anyone with one of those baby Bjorns, you thought it was going to look like this, and it ends up looking a little bit more like that. Or any Bob Ross fans, nice Chia Pet set of hair there, ends up looking a little bit more like the item on the right. Or my personal favorite, that classic Instagram photo you're going for that ends up looking a little bit more like this. And so you see this play out in so many different areas conceptually within the workplace. A recent stat just came out saying that 99% of people want access to all of their benefit information when they're at home. And this came out pre-COVID, so that last 1% has probably changed their mind in that time frame. And yet only 12% were able to access that information. It's a huge expectation gap in just one simple area. So why is it that we put these mazes up? How do we get the maze, get the human out of the maze here? What's the state of the problem? I like to think that there are 3 Ds that we can use to describe what's going on. There's a discovery problem, there's a digestion problem, and there's what I would call a Ditto problem. We're going to unpack these over the next couple slides. The discovery problem is it's way too hard to find the information we need to be effective. Inc. magazine is talking about how we waste half the hours in our week looking for information. Medium recently put out a whole kind of guide around how to redo your intranet. Prescient Media talks about how when people get frustrated when they just can't get the information they need to do their job. So a lot of times we're left feeling a lot like this. Second D is the digestion problem. Okay, David, let's say we actually got the information. Sometimes it's difficult to consume the information we actually have. So we get somewhere between 75 to 128 texts per day, and I'm sure that number has gone up post-coronavirus. Reading is down, long-form reading is down 30%, and yet our average employee handbook is 49 pages in length. In fact, we're working with a large financial services customer that's a 267-page onboarding guide. That's not their policies or their procedures. That's literally how do you log into their systems. When they printed it out and handed it to us, we saw a small forest get knocked down in the middle of this process. It was just so asinine. So we've got the discovery problem, we've got the digestion problem. The last one is what we would call the Ditto problem. The Ditto problem is that we waste a lot of time on frustratingly repetitive tasks. Information Age put out a stat that 90% of workers are burdened with some kind of boring or repetitive task at some point throughout their day. And in fact, it doesn't stop if you're in management. If you're a manager or a leader, you're still spending a third of your day on administrative tasks. So let's talk about the solution. The solution to these knowledge management problems is artificial intelligence. And everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's got their own definition of AI. I like to make things really simple. We think of AI as software that learns to replicate intelligent human behavior. And in fact, this isn't a fad. People are projecting that there are going to be 58 million new jobs created by 2022 just in the AI space alone. That's probably why you see a big increase in the Google search trends around the phrase reskilling. People are trying to up their skills for this new AI economy that we're heading toward. Now, if I go into the workplace and I think about your average team member, let's talk about Colette. Colette is answering questions. She might be in a support group. She might be in HR support, IT support. She might be in customer support. but she has all these tools that she needs to support her role if she wants to automate the work that she does. She needs a place to store her frequently asked questions. She wants to upload and search relevant documents that contain the information that she needs. She wants to put content on her support website so she doesn't have to keep answering these questions. When a call comes into her or her team, she wants to direct where that question should go because different team members might have different levels of expertise. She wants to jump directly into a high priority conversation with a customer, whether internal or external. She's got all these systems that she connects to, like her email and her CRM, as well as proprietary apps her company's developed that she's got to learn the ins and outs to. And then finally, she wants to automate the processes she does over and over again, like setting up an account or onboarding a new agent. Now, any one of these can be tackled. You can find a point solution for any one of these areas. But we firmly believe that if you want Collect to be as successful as possible, you want one modern knowledge management stack that can handle each of these areas. Your FAQs, your cloud drive, your articles, your conversations, your live chat, your app integrations, a developer platform to connect to those proprietary apps you use, and ultimately a workflow builder to automate those tools. Now, how automation works. On the left, we've got either Connie the consumer or Emily the employee. On the right, we've got Colette, that's co-pilot, that's support agent. Now, instead of sending that question directly to Colette, Emily or Connie are going to send that directly to Capacity, and Capacity will come back instantly with a response. And today, we're answering about 84% of our questions automatically, which is completely state-of-the-art. And we can pull those, again, responses from any one of these sources, FAQs, documents, articles, apps, dev platform, conversations, workflow builder, you name it. Now, this is where a lot of companies get tripped up. There's a lot of chatbots out there, a lot of purported AIs out there. But what ends up happening is if you ask those bots a question and they don't know the answer, then they're like those fainting goat videos my kids like to watch on YouTube. They just kind of fall over, freeze up, and start making all sorts of goat noises. We don't want anyone making goat noises here at Capacity. So instead, if you ask Capacity a question and it doesn't know the answer, we are going to intelligently route that to the appropriate person on Colette's side of the fence. And then she's going to come back and respond. And we'll let her do that through two different means. She can file a traditional ticket, or she can jump into a live chat where the bot hands off the conversation directly to her. Now, again, most help desks, most support platforms were designed to triage the tickets coming in. But we recognized pretty early on that you have to learn the answers that come back from these help desks. So we designed it to where whenever Colette responds to a question that comes in, that answer gets saved back in the knowledge base, and the AI learns it for next time. So it's just constantly learning and improving along the way. Now, I'm based in St. Louis, born and raised, and for those of you who are from Missouri or know about Missouri, you know that Missouri is the show me state. So David, you can tell me about all this great stuff. Show me how it's actually impacting real companies. Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about total access urgent care. Total access urgent care had this issue where they wanted to deflect patient calls going into clinics. So here's what would happen. In peak times, take Saturday morning, take coronavirus time, people would call in with a massive number of calls at the same time. Their front desk couldn't handle the volume. And in fact, physicians assistants were actually starting to take calls on behalf of the front desk. Not a great way to use your medical professional staff time. So instead, they brought in Capacity, and we were able to reduce their patient calls by 20% by providing them with an automated response to the questions they needed on their website. You can go to Total Access Urgent Care's website and check this out. Let's go on the other side of the world. Let's go to TD Ameritrade. TD Ameritrade, large, big financial organization. They wanted to reduce the time it takes to find internal experts. So they had legacy projects where the developer in charge may have moved to another group or may have moved to another company. So like, how in the world can we figure out who knows what within the organization? So they brought in Capacity, had Capacity look at a bunch of their ticket history and a bunch of their data, and we were able to, in about 3.4 seconds, we can now tell you who knows what within TD Ameritrade's engineering group, completely changing the time it takes to access those internal experts. Lastly, let's talk about AllianceBernstein. So AB came to us and they said, David, we've got all this fun prospectus information all over the place. It's in a PDF, it's in a Word file, it's on SharePoint, it's on our intranet, it's in an email. We want to be able to provide real-time access to this information for our sales team. So we came in and we connected to all these different systems, and we can now pull over 50,000 data points in just a couple of seconds. So somebody asked, what's the year-to-date performance on the AB Income Fund? They don't have to go looking around 5 different places to find the answer to that. They just ask their question in natural language, get a response back. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to turn you, the team member, into the hero. That's the point of this whole technology. The point is not to just bring in AI for AI's sake. We're here to help you go do your best work. So to summarize, the problem, big expectation gap. Nobody wants a balding Bob Ross. Second thing, AI is the solution, the ability to replicate human intelligence and scale that out across these systems. Ultimately, we want to turn you into a superhero. Thank you all for taking the time out. Look forward to answering your questions in the Q&A session.
Okay, well, thank you, David. And now let me welcome Tom Barfield, Chief Solutions Architect with Keeeb. Tom.
Well, thank you. And Heather and David, you guys, I really enjoyed the stories and your insights here. Hopefully, everybody here will find that I can add on to the great stuff that's been shared so far. I came to Keeeb in the last year. I joined after spending about 27 years at Accenture, and for the last 18 of those, I led knowledge management and social learning there, driving the overall culture, strategies, processes, and tools. And I joined Keeeb because our vision, navigating knowledge to the user, aligns so much with what I found to be successful at Accenture. I joined Keeeb because I've seen the approaches, Keeb's approaches actually work. The solutions that we have here at Keeeb are solutions that I've actually seen work and implemented at Accenture. So what are they, and what I'm going to talk about today? I'm going to share about how a brokered search can improve findability with low effort. How collaborative curation can engage end users to help identify the best content, which can allow your KM teams to focus on the most strategic knowledge challenges. And we're going to talk about pragmatic approaches of using text analytics to improve both the curation and the findability. I hope if you find what I have to share here today insightful, that you'll join me in checking out the KM collection, which is an example of how we're using our products to help you actually find the information you need. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the challenge. And we've seen some of this, is going to sound very familiar. Our end users have more access to information than they've ever had before, and it's growing all the time. More shared documents, more tools, more systems, more external information, and that leads to distraction. We're swamped. And by being distracted, that causes us to actually miss information, miss experts in collaboration, missing business opportunities. Now, the oddity in all of this is that yet, even with all that information, only a fraction of the relevant knowledge and information is captured. Only 20%, may be captured. Tools aren't used. Information and knowledge is locked in our people's heads. Captured knowledge is hidden. It's hard to find. Scattered across networks and tools, across silos in the organization. Getting to content is hard enough. Getting to experts who are isolated can be even harder. All this leads to time being wasted. So, what is Keeeb all about? Keeeb is all about making relevant knowledge navigate to the user. Earlier, Heather talked about the zero-click knowledge. I love that term, zero-click knowledge. It's in line with what we're talking about here about navigating knowledge to the user. And what you see here is three approaches. One, a brokered search. That's about taking content where it's already stored and making it flow to the user through a brokered search experience, which is different from an enterprise search experience. On the right side, we're going to talk about collaborative curation. That's about engaging your end users and helping to identify the best content. Curation doesn't have to be limited to your knowledge management professionals or those in the marketing organization. Tapping into the crowd to help identify the best content and getting that to flow can result in your end users actually being able to better find what they need. Mix in the human and the machine, as David was just talking about. How can we use the machine to make this happen more effortlessly? So let's talk more about each of these three. The first one we'll dig deeper into is this concept of the brokered search. We call it discovery. To get work done, your end users need to find information in so many different places. They may have to go to their inbox. Now, for me personally, I struggle when I have to, find something, an email that I wrote that's sitting in my own inbox. That alone can be a challenge. Now that said, Microsoft is making some pretty good progress with their online Office 365 search. Maybe your users have to go to Box or Salesforce or some other cloud application. Or inevitably, probably some sort of a Google search is done, which can take them in any number of new directions. You may offer them external content sources like Gartner or Forrester. And hopefully your internal great content is a source they're looking for. Maybe they're using your enterprise search capability. And so today, our end users have to go to so many different places to try to find the information that they need. They need to conduct searches after search after search. What Keeeb Discovery does is it brokers those searches. It's taking the best of those search capabilities, and with one query, the end user can actually get content from all these different sources, and Discovery will bring it together for them in one place. Now, the Discovery broker, brings all that together, but that isn't it alone, because what Discovery will do is it enables you to, or your end users, to tailor that experience to their particular needs. So, maybe it's, being able to turn on a source or turn off a source. It's, maybe adding a source, with when you have the ability to set the discovery up, you're able to set up sources for them. But the end user has the ability to tune that, add sources, change sources. That's actually one of the pieces we're working on right now is to make it very simple for your end users to be able to add their own sources and tune their sources. Now, the content that we bring back, the Keeeb Discovery brings back, is we always protect the rights and of the sources that you're connecting to. So in terms of what you're looking for, the content is we'll use login information such that your folks will only be able to access the content that they have the rights to. Now, so what I've shared here so far is all about the brokered search, but Keeeb's search broker capabilities can be further amplified by what I think about as collaborative curation. So let's talk about that. So Keeeb Collections is the place that we have for enabling your end users to help in curating content. Human curation plays a very important role in finding the best information. But your knowledge management teams and traditional knowledge management approaches to curation can be very cumbersome. Even more so when information is stored across so many different solutions. So our solution is a collaborative curation approach. We call it collections. My team at Accenture produced a similar capability, and I'll tell you, it was the one approach we took that required the least amount of change management and adoption effort. It took off like wildfire. Collections is a mashup of social bookmarking and Pinterest. When you find something you like, however you might find it, maybe search, maybe you got an email on something, maybe it was for browsing, click a single button. That's what you see here on the screen on this Bitcoin article. Click the K, and that allows you to collect that link and the content of that page into a collection, into a folder that you've created, folders that you've organized any way that you want. And it doesn't matter where the content is stored. So we aren't a knowledge management stack, as David referred to earlier. We help curate content where the content is already residing. Items collected can then be immediately findable through that Keeeb discovery. And the topics that are collected can be shared with others, and this is where we get to the collaborative portion. You may collect for your own benefit. Why? Because through discovery, you'll be able to get back to that content very easily. But what I found at Accenture was that there are end users out there who are willing to do this and take the collections that they've created and that they're curating and share it with others, either at individual, groups, or across the entire organization. You have the ability to choose who curates with collections. You might open it up to end users, or maybe you want to designate certain experts to get involved. By getting your audience more involved in the curation process, you can take some of the weight off your KM teams. That will allow them to spend less time trying to curate everything and more time focusing on the most strategic and closing the most strategic knowledge gaps that are out there. So that's human curation. Let's add in the machine now. So Keeeb discovery and collections are the foundation of our vision to navigate knowledge to the user. But if you mix in the machine, and at Keeeb what we're looking at is using text analytics to enable all of this to happen far more effectively and efficiently. Auto-classifying information. You collect content, we can scan that content and apply, identify the terms in your taxonomy that would be most appropriate for that. If you have a situation where you need to cleanse confidential information, maybe you're working with clients and you need to make sure that you're not sharing client information with the rest of the organization. We're working on approaches to use that text analytics to identify the risky areas of content and then allow you to easily cleanse that content out. If you can auto-classify, essentially you're putting a thumbprint on a document, and by putting a thumbprint on the document, you can use that actually to generate recommendations. Improving search precision. We are right now working on a capability to analyze search queries and the sources to identify which sources are best aligned to given search queries. And in that way, we can improve the precision of our discovery search capability. Down the road, you can think about intuiting knowledge and expertise in people, looking at what they're collecting, what are they clicking on, what are they liking, what are they commenting on. And in that, we can intuit what do they know. And move into a mode where we are pushing relevant content into specific applications and actually directly moving content to the people when they need it. These are the capabilities that Keeeb is working on right now. And let me just, some examples. From a researching perspective, your researchers are out there, looking for content across so many different sources. The Keeeb solution brings that together. makes it much easier and much faster to get access to that information. Not only for them, but also for the audience. For the audience, the resulting research, better access to that resulting research and the underlying supporting information. From a team perspective, a community of practice perspective, Heather talked about communities of practice and collaboration and identifying content in communities. That's an excellent use case, is tapping into your community of practice to help them curate the content that's most useful to the community. Those are just some of the use cases that we have here that the Keeeb solution can have a huge impact on. But let me just wrap up here. If you'd like to take a look at what the Keeeb solution is all about, you can actually access it today. One of the things that I've been working on personally is the KM collection. The goal of the KM collection is to bring together the best thinking on knowledge management and collaboration in one place from across the internet. So again, this is a capability that you can use to best tap into the thinking that's out there. And I would invite you, if you come join, that you help me in actually curating the knowledge that's out there. If you want to check it out, go visit kminvite.keeb.com to create an account and get started. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Mary Dee.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom. And now we will move on to some questions from our viewers. And if you do have a question, you can still put it into that box and click submit. Let's move to this question. This one is for Heather, and the question is about what is an example of how zero-click knowledge can be used. I know you talked something about contextual clues. You want to give us an example, please?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most compelling use cases I've seen for it is within, for example, an agent desktop. So we all know that any sort of contact center support agent tends to be very time pressured, as well as being expected to hold huge amounts of information in their memory. If you can actually start utilizing clues from the CRM system or agent desktop that the agent has to do anyway, so it could be the name of the case, the product the customer currently has, whether or not the call or chat coming in has been classified as a complaint. You can utilize all of those external data clues and actually start proactively pushing knowledge absolutely relevant in real time to the agent as they're dealing with that use case or with that customer case. And for me, I think that's probably one of the most compelling cases of zero-click knowledge. You're delivering knowledge straight to the person that needs it, no additional effort on their part, and it's absolutely relevant to the task at hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that Google's trying to do the same thing, but you probably do it better. We have another question here. David, I know everybody's talking about working from home. So this question is, how do you anticipate the sudden adoption of working from home will affect digital tool adoption in regards to knowledge management?
Yeah, so most knowledge management that exists in companies is still passed along from person to person, driving by somebody's cubicle and asking them a question, stopping off at lunch and talking about that project you were working on. And so even in companies that have intranets and portals and all the things, so much of what we used to do was get up and talk with people. Now, fast forward, we've got Zoom and Slack and Microsoft Teams and these types of tools in place, but it's still just not the same level of interaction. And so we believe that tools like Capacity are going to be at front and center because you can't just drive by and ask somebody a quick question. You need to be able to have a place to turn to that can give you an instant response and know that if that instant response is not available, someone will get back with you. Like, think of it like no question left behind.
I love that. Maybe Heather or Tom wants to jump in on that one. What does the sudden adoption of working from home mean for your companies? Heather?
For us, we see a lot of customers looking at how to use investments in technology that they've already been using, maybe within the four walls of an office, with home working. And they're looking at our input as to how to creatively utilize those technologies. So a lot of use in terms of cloud applications because they can be accessed from anywhere remotely, as well as then not just knowledge management, but other tools that allow people, for example, to monitor and help their employees working from home. So a lot of workforce management applications as well are absolutely being utilized right now. And it's definitely been interesting to see the shift to employees being now treated as customers. And in many ways, the technology is following that.
That's a really interesting concept, the employee as customer. Yeah. Tom, what's going on with working from home at Keeeb?
Well, I'd say, I think about working from home. For me, over the last 20 years, this isn't a new concept for me. At Accenture, my team was scattered around the world. At Keeeb, we have development teams in Germany. We're scattered across the United States. It's just the way we have to work. I believe that, really the focus on, the formation of communities, Heather talked about this earlier. I think that's a critical component. Getting online communities where people can come together and share what they know around, and it's beyond the actual, getting work done. I think you have to set aside time to enable that kind of that knowledge sharing to happen, and also again tapping into those groups of people, those cohorts to identify the best knowledge that's out there and share that with others. And so, I think for a lot of us, this is not new. I think it's just the current environment is making us ramp up the game a little bit. And I think there's plenty of insight out there that we can tap into to learn from people who've been thinking about this and taking action on it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. Yeah. Let's see. Questions from the viewers. Tom, here's another question for you. Would Keeb's approach replace my enterprise search?
Keeeb doesn't, our discovery capability, our intent is to work with your enterprise search. Enterprise search is a very, very hard problem to solve. And what Keeeb is doing is bringing together content from across many different searches. And so, no, we don't aspire to replace your enterprise search capability. We do want to work with it. And with the other search capabilities that are out there to bring the best information to your users, again, regardless of where it's stored, even if it's not in your existing enterprise search capability.
Mm-hmm. Heather, let's see. This is probably for you. Is there a cultural change element involved when you are revitalizing a knowledge management strategy? And how would this be addressed?
I think there definitely is. I think you're looking at sort of any digital transformation, knowledge revitalization, any of that is going to require the adoption of different methods by your employees. And I think one of the best way to do that, and I know it's become a recurring theme, it seems like, within this webinar, but it's going back to that communities again. It's making sure that everyone feels like they actually have a vested interest in the process. So if you're able to start crowdsourcing information, knowledge from other people within the organization, and that becomes a two-way conversation. It's not just people retrieving information, it's not you pushing it to them, but it's that dialogue that actually then ends up being inbuilt into the workflow of the knowledge. That's when you really see buy-in from the people that are working on the project, that are working in your organization, and that's what allows you to really drive that change in your knowledge management strategy as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. David, you want to chime in on this as well? Cultural change elements, the importance of community. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that if there's one bright spot of this pandemic that we're in. It's that really putting a spotlight on the interconnectedness of people and teams. I think I'll speak for myself. I took for granted how much I enjoy seeing my team every day when I go into the office. I think there's a cultural change when you are socially distant from others. And so as people are starting to adopt these new forms of tech, they're changing the ways they behave. We do a Thursday afternoon happy hour, and everyone's BYOB at this point, sitting in front of their computers on Zoom. But the change that we're seeing is that we're figuring out how do we move from a physical world to a world where we're primarily interacting digitally, and where things have to scale from a knowledge management perspective. And so we're seeing, I'll give just one quick example. One of our clients is using capacity on their external website for their customers. And we started talking with some of their internal team members, and they were like, look, the capacity bot is so much farther along in understanding what's going on. We check the external website before we check our intranet or our internal portal. So that's when you know that these internal portals, they need work, they need overhauling, which is why you've got all the great speakers on this call today.
That's fascinating. Tom, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think this is age old, but think first about what's in it for me, what's in it for the end user that's going to motivate them to participate. And I talked about a little bit, the why would I want to collect content, and help curate content? Well, part of the reason is by doing so, it helps me find what I need. The ability to help other people is kind of like an added, that's the icing on the cake, but it's not the cake itself. The cake is really, how am I going to be able to benefit? How am I going to be able to be more effective at doing my job? And I think that's, if you can get there, that will play a huge role in motivating folks to want to participate.
So I think that all sums up the good parts of the working from home situation in which we all find ourselves. Do you think it will persist once we all get back to the office?
Yeah, I think. I think it's going to be a while. I think there's going to be aspects of what we're dealing with right now that you're just not going to be going back. I mean, you're going to be going back to the office, sure, but I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to really challenge ourselves to think about how to work like this. And in many cases, I think you're probably seeing fewer people going to be going into the office, in the future. Mm-hmm. And so from that perspective, I think more working from home opportunities. And so I don't think that the skills that we're learning now and the new things, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. And so from that perspective, I think it's a huge opportunity for our KM teams and KM organizations around the world to really step up and take this opportunity to really foster that knowledge flow, regardless of where people are at, and to tap into the virtual work. Yeah.
This is sort of a follow-on question that someone has asked us. Let me throw this one to David. What kinds of tangible ROIs are small and medium-sized businesses seeing after deploying digital knowledge management solutions?
Yeah, so we're seeing in companies where they have an internal either help desk, customer service desk, or call center, where they've seen north of 25% of their calls being reduced. We've also seen examples where not only are we reducing the number of tickets and emails and calls that are happening, we're also giving people the direct insights into what's going on. So we had another client who was going through a big website rebranding project, and they had all their ducks in a row, and they did all their analysis on what content they produce, and they put it up on their site, and then next thing you know, they turn around and people are asking all these questions around topics that they hadn't covered. And had they not had this kind of analytical insight into what people cared about, they would have missed the mark on their redesigns. And so we're seeing folks get both an ROI from a cost savings perspective, but also over time from a revenue generation perspective as well.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Tom, ROI, are you seeing tangible ROI?
Well, measuring ROI is a very interesting challenge. You can go to the tactical route and just measuring how much time people are spending looking for information. In projects I've worked on, for instance, in search, how much time are people spending in the search engine? And can you actually reduce that time? And so that's more of a tactical approach. Sometimes I think also it's important, and I appreciate what David just shared in terms of really focusing on one use case, which is call centers. And I think from a knowledge management perspective, we can think about and challenge ourselves and maybe set the bar too high in trying to do an ROI on the entire knowledge program. I think the best approach is to identify specific use cases, demonstrate value in your ROI in that particular use case. For instance, a call center is a great example. And then work from there. I think if you can get your ROI in more focused areas of the business where you're having impact, that tells the story incredibly well.
Heather, what about use cases ROI at Verint?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what I was saying about actually being able to put together a business case for knowledge management. Contact center, absolutely. We have customers that are able to reduce call handling time by 75%. Another key thing that I've seen is actually the ability to decrease training times. So if you can decrease training times within your contact center up by upwards of 50%, you have substantial savings there, as well as being able to upskill and cross-skill agents. I absolutely believe in the comment that was just made about actually using one use case at a time. We have quite a few customers that started using knowledge management, for example, in one area, say an HR help desk even. And when they saw the decrease in number of calls coming through to even their internal HR help desk by 50%. That was so successful that they then started rolling it out to self-service and contact center use cases subsequently. And so people tend to start evangelizing within an organization itself once you have one use case that has shown a demonstrable ROI. But absolutely focus on where you need it most organizationally, where you are focusing on that digital transformation, and then the others will follow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Interesting discussion. Okay, that is all the time we have for questions today, and we do apologize that we were unable to get to all of your questions. But as I stated earlier, all questions will be answered via email. And I would like to thank our speakers today, Heather Richards, VP Product Strategy for KM, Verint, David Karandish, Founder and CEO, Capacity, Tom Barfield, Chief Solutions Architect, Keeeb. If you would like to review this event or send it to a colleague, please use the same URL that you used for today's event. It will be archived for 90 days. Plus, you will receive an email with the URL to view the webinar once the archive is posted. And just for participating in today's event, you could win this $100 Amazon card. The winner will be announced on April 30th. We will reach out via email if you are selected as this month's winner. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's webcast. You may now disconnect. Speakers, please stand by for your post-conference.